Tomb. Andrew actually hasn't played much at all this year, so he might be reading some of the cards. But just because he hasn't played does not mean his mechanics are off. He's still very good at the game. He's 3-0 right now, so I expect him to still do well. He knows his deck. He's been playtesting his Donphan deck a lot, but he doesn't know every single card off the top of his head. So here, Eric just attaches a Lightning Energy to Spear Tomb, and he plays an N after playing a Battle Compressor. Andrew actually started Wobbuffet, which is a very interesting tech that he plays. I'm not really sure. Okay, so he doesn't play. He's just using it to go into it. So Wobbuffet was a tech that people played a while ago in Donphan. That Donphan's attack is Spinning Turn, which does 40 damage, and you switch it with a Pokemon on your bench. Wobbuffet is played in this deck not for the attack, but for the ability. You attack with Donphan, and then you switch into Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet is a very good card against decks like Virizion Genesect, and decks that rely on abilities. Looks like Andrew broke a sleeve here. Just gonna replace it really quick. Not 100%. Okay. So he's just drawing his opening hand. He just had to replace the sleeve. Hawlucha comes down on the bench. Robo Substitute comes down on the bench. So Robo Substitute is a trainer, but it's a trainer that states that you may play it as a Pokemon, and it has 30 HP. When it is knocked out, your opponent takes no prize cards. So basically, on the bench, it's just a meat shield. It can take a hit, and then it dies, and your opponent takes nothing. So you use Donphan, you use Spinning Turn, you do your damage, and then you go retreat into your Robo Substitute, and they have to attack it, and then it dies, and they get nothing out of it. In some scenarios, it is more beneficial to go Wobbuffet to shut off their abilities, however. Here, Andrew just benches Phanpy, attaches an energy. Phanpy is the basic of Donphan. And then Junipers draws his hand and passes the turn. He also has a Hawlucha on the bench. Hawlucha is a Pokemon, 70 HP, free retreat, one energy that is fighting, and it does 60 damage to an EX Pokemon and does not apply weakness or resistance. Here, Eric draws for turn, attaches Floatstone to Spear Tomb, benches Mewtwo, attaches energy to Mewtwo, and plays N. Or Juniper. I'm not 100% positive what he played there. Oh no, he actually played nothing there. He actually just used Spear Tomb's attack. Spear Tomb's attack, Hex Mirror, shuffles your hand into your deck, then you draw a number of cards equal to the number of cards in your opponent's hand. That's what he used there. He actually probably had a dead hand, and he just used Hex Mirror. Andrew has a really strong start here. He gets Donphan on turn 2. He has a Computer Search. He might use it to get a Muscle Band. Yep. So he's actually aiming to knock out the Spear Tomb here. He's going to play Muscle Band, attach a Strong Energy. Strong Energy is a fighting energy while it's attached to a fighting Pokemon, but it also increases the damage of any attack of the fighting Pokemon by 20. So Donphan does 40 damage base, plus 20 for the Strong Energy, and then plus 20 damage for the Muscle Band, which is a tool attached to it. Andrew attaches Floatstone, which gives Wobbuffet free retreat, and then Andrew attacks, knocks out the Spear Tomb, and Spinning Turns into Wobbuffet, shutting off Eric's abilities, even though he doesn't have any at the moment. Eric attaches a Lightning Energy to Mewtwo and plays an Ultra Ball. Now, Eric has a very, very bad start, and his deck in general probably has a pretty mediocre Donphan matchup, if not a terrible Donphan matchup, if it cannot set up in Polion. If he is able to get Archies and Polion early in the game, I'm sure this matchup is actually fine for him. But if he cannot, the matchup seems like it's pretty terrible, because his main attacker at that point is Manectric, which Manectric and Mega Manectric, which are lightning Pokemon. You can evolve Manectric EX into Mega Manectric, and that your turn ends, which is a Mega rule. Or you can attach a Spirit Link and evolve to Mega Manectric, and your turn doesn't end if you have the Spirit Link. So that is what that card is on top of Eric's discard pile. Anyways, Eric uses Mewtwo EX's attack X-Ball to X-Ball Wobbuffet for weakness, which is 40 damage, times 2 for weakness is 80. Andrew draws this card. He attaches an energy to Hawlucha, and he'll probably not do much else. He knows Eric's hand is dead right now, since he didn't do anything, so he will not end, even though he could. He will just spinning turn for 100, and then he will probably retreat into Robo Substitute. Andrew has Fighting Stadium in play, which is a stadium that also adds 20 damage for every fighting Pokemon, whenever a fighting Pokemon attacks an EX. Here, Eric will have probably nothing really good to do. He's just probably going to Ultra Ball and find a Jirachi if he has it available to him, but I believe he either discarded it turn 1 or he Hex Mirrored it and shuffled it back into his deck. So hopefully he has it in his deck and he didn't end up discarding it. Sometimes it's hard to see what they discard off of Ultra Balls if they don't fan it out like Eric has it fanned out now. If he does, okay, so he does have Jirachi, he did end up shuffling it back in, he never discarded it. And he's going to use Stellar Guidance to get Juniper. And he will get, oh no, he has got Archies, okay. He can actually empty his hand, okay, so that's actually really good for him. So he's going to empty his hand and be able to Archies. For those of you just joining, Archies is a card that lets you put any water Pokemon from your discard onto your bench and then draw 5 cards if you have 0 cards in your hand when you play it. So puts Empoleon on the bench, draws 5 cards, and then he will proceed to Diving Draw. He has an Execute in the discard, so he will Propagate. He most likely took a shortcut and just said Propagate. He never showed it, but he doesn't have to if Andrew knows it's there. Just says Propagate, and then draws 2 cards off Diving Draw. Eric attaches a Water Energy to his Empoleon. He's got a pretty terrible turn. Honestly, even with Empoleon's out, Eric only plays 1 Lysander. So he only has like 3 to 4 Lysanders every game, because he plays 4 VS Seekers, which could become Lysanders. So he probably will only be able to Lysander 3 to 4 times a game. So if Andrew can stream Robo Substitutes and force Eric to attack into them for no value, Andrew will just eventually outvalue him by actually knocking out stuff, whereas Eric's just hitting the meat shields and just accomplishing nothing, which is a strategy of Donphan. Here, Andrew plays N. He doesn't really need that much besides setting up another Donphan. So I would say he's looking for a Phanpy here, and maybe an Energy. But for the most part, he has a pretty strong setup. He's looking for Robo Substitutes, of course. If he can find those, that'll be good for him. I think if Eric actually prizes with Lysander in any of these games, it's like a very unfavorable matchup. So Donphan will hit and Spinning Turn for 100 damage to knock out the Mewtwo EX, and he will retreat into Wobbuffet, which means he did not find any Robo Substitutes. But in this case, it doesn't matter because Eric plays Lysander, which lets you bring up a Pokemon on your opponent's bench. He Lysanders up to Donphan, propagates, Diving Draws to draw 2 cards, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He needs 1 basic Pokemon, and then Empoleon will do 70 damage with Attack Command. And then you times that by 2, and that will be Knockout. Be 140 damage, the amount of HP that Donphan has. Ooh, this is really unfortunate for Eric that he didn't get a basic, because he's forced to propagate the execute in his discard, put it in his hand, and then actually bench it to get that 7th Pokemon. Andrew draws a card. He has a large hand. He'll probably be thinking for a little while. What? Oh. Let's see here. He has a Dedenne. That's a tech for the Yveltal matchup. Dedenne has an attack called Energy Short, which is 20 damage times the amount of energies on your opponent's Pokemon, and it's electric type, so Yveltal is weak to it. But that's not going to be relevant here. His hand actually looks subpar, because he was not able to get another Phanpy, which means he cannot attack with a Donphan this turn. And he can't get 2 Phanpys out, so if Eric ever Lysanders this Phanpy this turn, he'll be able to keep Andrew off of Donphans for a little while. So here, Andrew's going to play a Karina, which allows you to get 1 trainer card and 1 fighting Pokemon. Andrew's going to get a Phanpy, and he'll get a VS Seeker, and he will likely just end up passing the turn. Wait a second. I'm wondering if Andrew let Eric propagate with a Wobbuffet active. I'm not 100% sure. I just noticed that I actually forget about Wobbuffet's ability, like sometimes with things like Execute. So hopefully that wasn't the case. But if it was, that's unfortunate. So here, Andrew actually feels that it's necessary to attack the Empoleon for 40 damage. With the Dedenne, Empoleon is weak to lightning, so the attack does 20 damage, then times it by 2. I don't think Andrew will actually be able to knock out the Empoleon next turn even with Donphan, but if Eric's running short on VS Seekers and Andrew's able to stream Robo Substitute, it won't end up mattering too much that he can't one-shot it, because eventually he'll outvalue Eric, because Eric will have to attack into Robo Substitutes. We'll see how the game plays out. It all depends what's is in Andrew's hand and what he can do. In this scenario, Empoleon is still allowed to use Diving Draw even when Wobbuffet is active, because it is considered an evolved Pokemon through the wording of the Archie's card. It's not actually a basic, even though it's not evolved from like Piplup or Prinplup. Here we just see Eric use some Acrobikes, go through this deck. He's probably trying to find like not necessarily Manectric, but energies and just cards to help set up. Manectric would actually be really bad to set up here, just because he is weak to it and it would be knocked out easily. He's actually probably trying to set up another Empoleon, if he can. Other than that, he's looking for energies and his Rough Seas. Eric plays 3 copies of Rough Seas. Rough Seas is a stadium that says whenever you use it, you heal 30 damage from each water and electric Pokemon. Each stadium, its effect is global, so both players can use it, and you do whatever the card says. So Rough Seas says once per turn you can heal 30 damage from all your water or electric Pokemon. So Eric chooses to do that. And he attack commands for the knockout on the Phanpy, because he's able to VS Seeker for Lysander. Which is what I said could happen to keep Andrew off of Donphan, and that is Eric's best play by far. Here, Andrew is Lysandering up the Jirachi, and he will likely kill it with Hawlucha this turn, which means he actually doesn't have much going for him, but since he only has one prize left after he knocks out the Jirachi, he could try to take his last prize on Execute, which only has 30 HP. Eric still has 4 prizes left, which means he has a long way to go before he wins this game. Hawlucha's attack is doing 110 damage to Jirachi EX right now. Silver Bangle is a tool that when you attach it to a Pokemon, its attack does 30 more damage to EX Pokemon. Here we see Eric attach a third energy to Keldeo, which is a water type. So it's going to be good in this matchup in the future. Not right now though, because there's no Donphans on the board. But Secret Sword does 50 damage plus 20 damage for each water attached to Keldeo EX. Right now there's 2 energies on Keldeo, so it will do 90 damage. And Hawlucha has 70 HP, so it will be knocked out. Keldeo EX also has an ability called Russian, which allows it to take the place of the active Pokemon. You just switch it with the active. So Eric's going to use Russian, and he's going to Secret Sword for 90 damage, knocking out the Hawlucha. Andrew's going to bring up Wobbuffet. Just think about what he has for options. He has some time before he loses the game, so hopefully he has a supporter here. He can try to set up an attack on the Execute with like a Lysander to end the game. That's really what he's going for. If not, he can try to set up a Phanpy or a Hawlucha and do 60 damage with Dedenne this turn, and then try to knock out with like Hawlucha for 110 damage next turn, or like Phanpy into Donphan into like a spinning turn for a large amount of damage, something like that. Here, oh, he actually chooses to use Dedenne's first attack. You don't see that very often. He uses Entrainment. Entrainment is an attack that says you search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon, you put them on the bench. He values the benched Phanpys over the ability to do 60 damage, which I actually think is correct, because now this opens up the option of getting Donphan out and then being able to Lysander up the Execute for game. Not next turn, but the turn after. That's just a game plan. Eric's going to take a knockout now, he'll take a knockout next turn, and then on Andrew's turn, if he is able to set up after that point, he'll be able to Lysander up to Execute and knock it out for game. Here we see Keldeo retreating for Empoleon, and we will see an attack command for knockout. Yep, okay, so we see an attack command for knockout. Andrew brings up Wobbuffet, and he has a chorus for 6. So hopefully he'll be able to get a Donphan, an energy, and be able to hit the Empoleon. I'm pretty sure the damage won't matter that much though, because Rough Seas will make the damage a moot point. He'll just heal it off, and the game will come down to whether or not Andrew can Lysander up the Execute to win the game. Okay, let's see what Andrew gets. He gets some Robo Subs, so he'll be able to. He has a couple Robo Subs on the board. If Eric has no access to Lysander, he'll be able to stall with Robo Subs, denying Eric more prizes. He does, however, with the energy. I'm not sure how many energies Andrew has used yet, but he plays 4 strong energies, 5 fighting, and 2 TCE, so he only plays 11 energies. So there's a chance that he's running low on energies, and that he has a smaller percent chance of actually hitting his energies to be able to attack with. So his hand is pretty mediocre. He just has like Karinas and Switch and N. He might be able to get a Professor's Letter off the Karina if he has one in there. Professor's Letter lets you get energies. If you get 2 energies from your deck that are basic energies, put them in your hand. So if he has that, he'd be able to do that, but it looks like Eric is going to be a Seeker for N and play it. So Andrew will draw 1 card and Eric will draw 2. That means Eric is also not playing Lysander this turn, which is a relief for Andrew, because that means Eric is going to have to hit into the Robo Sub for no value. Second Robo Sub. At this point, if I'm Andrew, I'm also contemplating whether or not Eric has the means to actually Lysander around my Robo-Subs enough to actually win the game before he decks himself out. One of the win conditions in the Pokemon TCG is if you have 0 cards left in your deck, you lose the game if you have to draw another one. So if Andrew can stall long enough for Eric to not be able to take any more prizes, then he'll win the game off deck out. And it looks like Andrew was able to get another Robo-Sub. Eric was able to Lysander that turn to kill a Phanpy, but it may not matter if he doesn't have access to another Lysander. If he cannot Lysander again, I believe this game could be over, depending on how many cards are in his deck. He may win the race. He may be able to... Okay, no. Eric has Lysander's trump card in his deck. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was his last prize or not, because I hadn't seen it yet. But Eric does play Lysander's trump card to shuffle his discard back into his deck. So he's able to get that by junipering for the rest of his, or for diving drawing, I believe, for the rest of his deck maybe, or by battle compressoring and then VS Seekering for it. That wouldn't make sense if it was VS Seeker. I believe he diving drew to hit it, and then he battle compressored the 3 cards that weren't trump card, and then he diving drew to draw 2, and the last card in his deck was like trump card, and then he played the trump card, and now he has a whole deck again, so he no longer loses to deck out, and he gets his Lysander back in his deck with his 4 VS Seekers. Andrew, on the other hand, looks like he does not have much going for him. He has no Dawn Fan at the moment, I believe, but he does have a DCE, so that means Dawn Fan has a second attack called Wreck, which does 80 damage, plus 60 damage if there's a Stadium in play. So if he is able to get a Fighting Energy and a Dawn Fan next turn, Andrew will be able to Wreck for the game. The attack costs 2 fighting and 2 colorless energies. Here, Eric just junipers. Can't really do much else. Gonna battle compressor. Probably gonna diving draw, and then he's probably gonna attack into the Robo Substitute. Personally, I think he should attack into the Robo Substitute with Keldeo EX because it has more HP. And it will not immediately get knocked out by Wreck. It will force Andrew to have a strong energy and a muscle band or a bangle and energy. Here we see Acrobike. Draw 2, pick 1, discard the other. He discards an Ultra Ball, takes an Acrobike, plays the Acrobike, discards a Manectric, and takes something unknown. What did Eric take? He's shaking his head, so it seems like he doesn't have much going for him. Yeah, he's just going to have to attack into the Robo Substitute if Andrew has Dawn Fan, Strong Energy, Muscle Band, or some combination of Dawn Fan Ooh. So now he's gonna bank on hitting Don Fan and he wins the game. Oh, Eric never rushed in. I think that's actually a pretty critical misplay. Oh no, he can't. He has there's a Waba. Wait, there was not a Wobbuffet active. He killed a Robo Substitute, so he couldn't. He could have rushed in last turn, which would mean Rek only does 160 damage to a Keldeo with the Fighting Stadium, which means he would not have lost if he had rushed in and knocked out the Robo Substitute. He wouldn't have lost immediately. He would have forced Andrew to hit a Muscle Band. I don't know if Andrew had the means to hit a Muscle Band or a Bangle or not, but if he didn't, Eric would have survived another turn and potentially won the game. So, I don't know if you saw that or not, but that was still a good game. Slight misplays, but no big deal. Here, they're just shuffling up for game 2. Andrew won game 1, as we saw. I'm going to try to pay more attention to whether people are using abilities under Wobbuffet, because there was that crucial turn where Eric had to propagate for the 7th Pokemon, and I wasn't 100% positive if Wobbuffet was active, or whether it wasn't active. So I'll pay more attention to that. Although the judges should be on that, but I can also pay attention to it and mention it to them to watch out for it. I think this matchup is in Andrew's favor, but Eric can win it if he can stream Lysander knockouts. And since he does play Trump card, he could recycle the Lysander and the VS Seekers and make a stream of knockouts that way, or create a stream of knockouts that way. Because that was actually that was actually a really close game, and I think Eric could have actually won that game. Here we see Mulligan. For those of you that don't know the Pokemon TCG that well, a Mulligan is where you have no basic Pokemon, so you have to show your hand to your opponent, show them that you have no basic Pokemon, you shuffle that hand back into your deck, and then you draw 7 until you keep doing that until you get a basic Pokemon. For each time that you Mulligan, your opponent gets to draw 1 card extra. So far Andrew's Mulligan twice, which means Eric will get 2 extra draws after setup. Okay, so I didn't see what Eric started with, but Andrew's still looking for a Pokemon. Ooh, he starts Mr. Mime, not the best starter. Okay, here Eric is going first because he lost, so he gets to choose who goes first or second. And he chose to go first. Going first is generally a relatively big advantage in the Pokemon TCG. Hinders on a coin flip before the game starts. Here Eric plays Battle Compressor, discards Empoleon, discards Archie's Ace in the Hole, and discards Manectric EX. All cards that he wants in the discard. He did not shuffle his deck, which means he's going back in. Yep, second Battle Compressor, gets Manectric, gets Spirit Link, and he'll probably get like a Mega Manectric. Or an egg, but since he didn't get an execute, that tells me that his egg is prized. So, unfortunate for him. Let's see if he can get the turn 1. Oh, I think his last card is either an N or a Juniper. I don't think he actually has the VS Seeker in his hand. Okay, so it was an N. He does not have the turn 1 Archie's. Lucky for Andrew, unfortunate for Eric. They're both going to draw 6 cards, though. So, This start is not really bad for Eric. It's not amazing, but it's not horrible. If he gets a supporter for his next hand, he'll be alright. Andrew hasn't even like started playing the game yet, basically, so he's just looking for like his setup stuff, like Fampies, Karina, Energy, etc. Muscle Band's good. Yep. Okay, so Juniper. Yeah. So here he attaches the Muscle Band to the Holucha, which I do not hate because Eric has 2 Keldeo EX on the board, which means Holucha will be able to put in work. Andrew Juniper's discards the Mega Groudon, which means he will not be using that this matchup. I actually don't think it's bad in the matchup, but he didn't. I mean, there was no way he was going to set it up, so he has to Juniper it. But if he ever gets the chance to, it's not bad. He Junipers for 7 and then just passes the turn. Here, Eric Ultra Balls, discards a Spirit Link and a Sycamore. Professor Sycamore and Professor Juniper have the exact same effect and are pretty much the exact same card. They just have different names. And you can only play 4 of either combination of the card. And you can only play one. You either play Professor Sycamore or Professor Juniper. It's a confusing ruling, but Pokemon made it that way. I'm not sure why. Probably to go along with the newer games. Sycamore is the new professor in town. Juniper is no longer in favor. Ultra Ball, discarding another Sycamore, another Ultra Ball. Gonna get a Mewtwo, not bad. But Eric really just wants to Archie's that Empoleon out. It's like the way he can win the matchup. Otherwise, it's really difficult. Alright, so Eric just attaches a Lightning Energy to Keldeo, and then plays Jirachi, gets Archie's Ace in the hole, there we go. So he's able to get Archie's, and he's going to be able to get Empoleon onto the bench this turn. He's going to be able to Diving Drug up to 6 cards, because 5 for the Archie's draw, discard 1, plus 2, 6. Math. OP. OP. So Eric's just going through his deck, playing some Acrobikes. Ooh, he chooses to discard Rough Seas for Diving Draw. Interesting. I feel like Rough Seas is actually pretty important in this matchup. I would probably try to keep them if I could. But his other card, the last card, 2 cards in his hand must be much more important than Rough Seas, if he's just willing to discard it. He computer searches for a Float Stone. Interesting. And he rushes in and passes. So Eric just wants that Keldeo to take the hit for the turn, and then he'll just never put it active again. He'll force Andrew to have to Lysander it up later in the game to take the prizes. Andrew is going to play Karina, get a Donphan, and a Floatstone. He'll evolve Fampi to Donphan. I don't think he'll attach Floatstone to it. He'll attach Floatstone to Mr. Mime. So it has Fear Retreat. He'll attach Strong Energy to Donphan. Venture Robo Substitute. Computer Search for probably a Muscle Band. Or a Supporter, depending on his hand. Or a Bengal. Or a Fighting Stadium. Yep, Fighting Stadium's good too. I think I would have rather seen a Muscle Band here because Fighting Stadium can be countered. Unless he's attacking with Holucha. But I would rather see him attack with Donphan. So I would have rather seen a Muscle Band there because it will never go away. Whereas the Fighting Stadium can be countered. So I think that That may have been a slight mistake, but I also don't have perfect information on what is left in his deck. There may not be another Muscle Band in his deck. He may have his second one prized. There also may be multiple Rough Seas in Eric's discard, which means Fighting Stadium is safer. Either way, both are fine. Eric's going to attach another energy to Keldeo. He's going to Rough Seas, 30 damage off. So he did have Rough Seas to counter the Fighting Stadium, which is why I would have rather seen a Muscle Band there, because it prevents the Fighting Stadium from being countered. Now he doesn't have another Fighting Stadium in his, he has one less Fighting Stadium in his deck now, because Eric would have played that Rough Seas no matter what. Now Andrew just basically has one less Fighting Stadium in his deck. Unless he has his other Muscle Band prize, then he couldn't do that, and Fighting Stadium was correct. Anyways, here, Eric doesn't do anything really. He just passes, which I actually like this line of play, just passing. There's no point of attacking into Robo Substitute. It's not going to do anything for you. Passing is just better, because you don't want your Keldeo with the energies to hit. So he decides to pass the turn. Goes to Andrew. Andrew Junipers, draws 7, and let's see. He has, I didn't see much of energies, but he does have a Bengal here. So he's able to do 60, 90, 110 damage, plus 50. He's 10 away from the knockout. Keldeo is 170 HP. There's 160 damage that was done to it. Okay, he just has to decide what he's spinning turning into. Eric plays a Max Potion. Max Potion heals all damage off of one Pokemon, and you discard all energies attached to that Pokemon. So basically, Eric just gets to heal every damage counter off of Keldeo X for free, since there's no energies. Eric's just really looking for Lysander. If his Lysander's prized, I don't know how he actually wins this game. And at this point, he's not really making any progress on his board state. If he's going to attack into the Mime, whatever he attacks into it with is just going to get hit, and Andrew will probably be able to get another Robo Substitute out and just go into that and just lock Eric into just attacking Robo Substitutes. But that hopefully isn't the case for Eric, and he actually hopefully does have Lysander in his deck and doesn't get locked like that. So here we just see Eric take a prize on Mr. Mime by using attack command for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11 for either 100 or 110 damage. Or 100, it was 100 damage, so definitely overkills Mr. Mime by 30. Andrew sends up Hawlucha, Junipers, then retreats the Hawlucha into the Donphan, and then Donphan spinning turns for 60 damage into a Robo Substitute, which he drew off of the Juniper. Now Eric's looking for Rough Seas again. He has all of them back in his deck since he played Trump Card. Andrew also has all his Fighting Stadiums back because of Trump Card as well. Here, you see Eric getting more energies. He's going to end, and again, he's going to have to attack into a Robo Substitute. I'm starting to think that Eric's Lysander may be prized. So here, if it is prized, I can infer that to a degree. Either Eric's getting really unlucky and not drawing it, or he just doesn't have it in his deck, and it is in his prizes. So I'm going to infer that it is prized. And he's just going to, if Andrew can stream Robo Substitutes, he will likely win the game quite easily. Again, Eric chooses the strategy of not attacking into the Robo Substitute, which is fine. I like that strategy. He's able to retreat by using Russian on the Keldeo with the Float Stone, and then retreating the Keldeo that has free retreat because of the Float Stone into Mewtwo. The problem here is that if Andrew does have access to multiple Lysander effects, which he does play the card, and he does play multiple VS Seekers. He plays 2 Lysander, 3 VS Seeker. Eventually, he'll be able to Lysander up like this Mewtwo and this Jirachi and take 4 prizes off that, and then he'll only need to wreck 1 time on 1 Keldeo for the game to be over, which will happen fairly quickly if Eric cannot stop the Dawn fans by Lysandering them up to knock them out. Here, Eric Ultra Balls, discards Manectric Spirit Link. He's just not playing Manectric down at all. That's the correct way to play this matchup. Just never play it down. Just gonna be free prizes. Battle Compressors discards Empoleon. Archie is probably just gonna discard Manectric or Mega Manectric. And he's hopefully gonna get another Empoleon in play. I'm not sure if it'll matter too much. Andrew's goal right now is to take all the prizes off of EXs, I would think. That's the most optimal strategy at the moment. But it requires him hitting Lysanders. He might be forced to attack into Empoleon again. We'll see what happens. Yep, Eric's going to use Russian, and he's going to pass. Now that play makes not much sense at all. At the very least, you attack into it, because there's a chance that, like, it would never happen, but Andrew could just pass the turn and Eric would be forced to attack the Robo Substitute again. You, at the very least, attack the Robo Substitute to knock it out. Unless I'm missing something that happened, I'm pretty sure that he just rushed in and passed. Interesting. Interesting play. Here, Andrew is going to wreck, I think. He may not do it this turn, but he's with getting that DCE, he's setting up for a wreck. Whether he's going to do it this turn or whether he's going to hold on to wreck, I do not know, but the wreck is coming. And looks like he's going to bench Fampi, and then the Keldeo gets wrecked. The Keldeo gets wrecked, boys. Keldeo has been wrecked. And wreck discards the Stadium in play, so it also discards Eric's Rough Seas. And Eric will not be able to respond with the knockout unless he has another no, he has water. Okay. He has 3 energy on the bench Keldeo and an energy on the opponent, so he will be able to respond with the knockout. I actually, as weird as it sounds, I don't actually like wrecking that early. I feel like you can, as Andrew, you can infer that the Lysander is prized at this point, and that you can deny Eric prizes and just keep spinning turning. Even though it takes a long time to actually win the game, it seems like a much safer route to victory, as opposed to just wrecking and putting all your eggs in one basket. Because even as Andrew, he has Lysanders, like he sees a route to victory much faster, but you have to factor in that N is a card and that you could get End out of your winning hand. If Eric does not have the N, the game will be over though, because Andrew will Lysander up the Jirachi and knock it out. But Eric does have N. Both players shuffle their hand into the deck. Andrew's going to draw 2 cards, and Eric is going to draw 4. see what they draw. If Andrew has access to another Lysander, the game is over. Let's see what he gets with this computer search. A water energy. The fact that he computer searched for water energy almost 100% tells me that his Lysander is prized. Okay, so Andrew has the VS Seeker for Lysander for game. Andrew 2-0s Eric Gainsman to become 4-0. Congratulations to Andrew. Eric falls to 3-1. Good games to them. Haley, if you could get Andrew. Sweet, thank you. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I come around this way. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, thank you.
Here you go. I felt like that was actually a really good, it was a pretty good matchup for you.
Yeah.
Even if he gets Empoleon out, he only, like, he doesn't play many catcher effects, so he has to catch around your Robo Subs like every turn to like win that matchup. So it seems like it's pretty in your favor. The last game, do you have a feeling his Lysander was prized?
Yeah, like I hadn't seen it, and he just almost didn't play as if he had it for like the entire thing. Also, I was having trouble like finding more Fanfies in both games, and I don't know. I just kind of had to play with what I had.
How did you feel the matchup? Like,
I thought like that matchup's probably one of the best matchups for the deck because you can only use Empoleon and Keldeo, since Manectric's obviously weak to fighting.
Yeah, he was just discarding them, which is, I mean, it's correct. It's just, that's the matchup. There were did you have your second Muscle Band prize when you got the Fighting Stadium? There was one turn where you computer searched for a Fighting Stadium instead of a Muscle Band. I was thinking that your second Muscle Band was prized.
I thought I already had one in play. I only play one.
Oh, okay, okay.
I played 2 Bengal, one band.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense then.
Yeah.
That you got the Fighting Stadium. I just assumed that you played 2 just because that's like the norm. Yeah, but you haven't played much this year, have you?
No, I played St. Louis Regional, and this is the other regional I played. That's the only tournaments I played.
Yeah, this whole season. And you're doing 4-0, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
For not having played at all. Have you at least tested your deck and stuff?
I played like a few games against Virgin last night, but that's about it.
Yeah, tested with Michael Bergerac.
Yep.
What about when you were like, when you won, I believe you still won the biggest regionals to date, correct?
Yep.
Were you playing that season either at all?
No, I was just playing for fun basically that tournament. I was playing like DC deck building the night before. I mean, I was like, I didn't play, and then I won the regional. I was like, oh, maybe I should have gone for a Worlds Invite.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that today.
Hopefully.
That's the goal.
Yep.
Just never play all year. Just win. Just go. When you go to the tournaments, you just win them. It's easy. It's the key. Just never play. You'll always win.
Exactly. Play testing's for noobs.
Yeah. Definitely. Never play test. Never practice.
Nope.
Just be the best naturally. That's how it works.
Have Sam Chen help you with your list the night before. It's all good.
It's all good. All right, sweet. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, man.
Good luck in the future rounds. Maybe we'll see you again.
Thank you.
All right. So